a rockered boat won't plane. You'd have to have a transition into a planing surface in the back, and because like my trout boat is as close to getting to plane as you're going to get, because it's wide back end, but because it's rockered up, that boat, I mean, it will try, but because of that rocker bottom, it just doesn't.
That was Joe Koffler telling us why the rocker is so key in whitewater. Another great Drift Boat Series episode from one of my favorite companies today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today. We'll help you on your fly fishing journey with classic stories covering steelhead fishing, fly tying, and much more.
Hey, how's it going today? Thanks for stopping by the Fly Fishing Show. Are you getting excited for traveling again to find that spot that you haven't been to after we get through this COVID thing? I'm setting up some great fly fishing trips, some destinations around the country. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/travel to find out what we have going at the Wet Fly Swing travel site. Joe Koffler is here to share the story of how his dad created the drift boat company, Koffler Boats, after transitioning over from one of the leading aluminum gutter businesses in the valley. We find out how to protect the bottom of your drift boat, which are the best-selling boats right now, and why a drift boat won't help you get up on step. We talk a little bit about the design. We don't get too nerdy about it today, but we do dig into a little bit of the design on drift boats. So without further ado, here is Joe Koffler from KofflerBoats.com. How's it going, Joe?
Hey, great. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. This is we've been talking about this one for a while. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've got a good connection. I've got one of your boats. I've had your boats for a long time. So we're going to talk drift boats today, but maybe you could just start us off, take us back to how you first got into building boats and tell that story.
Sure. My dad was actually worked for his dad doing gutters. They had one of the first continuous gutter businesses in Lane County. And frankly, he was tired of fishing off the bank. So he went back to his wood shop teacher just out of high school, Jim Brown from Elmira High School. Anyway, they made a wood boat, and he fished that for a little bit and ended up selling it to pay for my hospital bill when I was born. So that was that, and ended up going back to his metal shop teacher, since he had the gutter business as he was able to buy aluminum from Pacific Metal. So he went to buy aluminum. So his second boat was an aluminum boat and used the same patterns, and ended up using that was about 1974, and used it a couple times, and just actually ended up hitting a rock, and it was super loud, and he was like, wow, this is, so he ended up selling it and building another wood boat. And the gentleman that bought his aluminum boat had two buddies that wanted one like it, because they were just absolutely done working on their wood boats. And so he ended up selling his wood boat, buying enough metal to build two aluminum boats, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I mean, word of mouth got out, and it was just guys that were wanting to get out on the water, that just, the wood boats, just so much maintenance that it was just, it was.
You solved that problem. And to this day, even my boat, I mean, a lot of the time it sits outside, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's no worries. It's sitting outside, and maybe the floorboards, if you don't go with diamond plate, maybe the floorboards eventually crack on you. But other than that, I mean, there's no problem, right? You can is there any issues just leaving your boat all year long outside?
Well, that's the beautiful thing with the aluminum boat, is we can tip them up, pull the drain plugs out of it, and it's the water washes it out, and it's ready to go next time we go grab it.
Yeah, Yeah, that's awesome. And the story there, going back to the gutter, but I mean that's amazing. And the hospital bill paying for, it's a little similar to some of my story too, because I sold. I remember I had a raft. I had a boat. I have a drift boat and a raft. But at the time, I sold a raft to pay for my first daughter as well. So it's kind of interesting how that works. And Bruce, your dad, right? Is Bruce Koffler was the original founder of the company.
He was he worked in the gutter business, doing the gutters during the day and boats at night until about 1977 when he decided to do it full time. So yep, he
Yeah,
was.
77. Okay. That's right. And again, there's so many overlaps. Maybe we'll get into some of this on the overlaps because my dad had a shop, a real small shop back in the day, and I think for a little time sold some of the boats there, and that's where I remember seeing those boats. They were in there and they were like all blinged out with the Koffler. It was pretty awesome. I always thought that was a really cool thing. But I wanted to dig into the aluminum boats because I've actually recently interviewed a guy who produced a film on Martin Linton, the guy who ran the wooden boats down the Grand Canyon back, in the day. And I know a little bit of that story, how the wood boats and the transition to aluminum. When you guys did it, were there how many other companies were out there doing aluminum boats when your dad started?
Just a couple.
Like Willis.
Willie actually was working with Alumiweld. They were the kind of the original Page Stevens. So they were the originals. And when Willie decided to go out on his own, he had a non-compete clause, so he had to wait, a couple of years before he could get back, and then he started Willie Boats on his own. So that was those three: Page, Willie, and my dad were.
That's it.
Woolridge actually.
Oh, Woolridge, yeah.
Woolridge, yeah, they were out there prior. So
that's right. And now, aluminum is still, I think, especially in our area, is it seems to me like kind of still leading. You also have now fiberglass, right? You have Clacca and like a bunch of these companies out in Montana that are doing stuff, and to a lesser extent across to the East Coast. But when you look at you guys we can dig into some of the aluminum fiberglass because I think they all have their own unique benefits. But I want to take it back to the history too to tie in that. So your dad, when he first built that wooden boat, where did that design come from? Who was the person that that first started?
Well, Jim Brown was the woodshop teacher out at Elmira High School,
mm-hmm.
and I believe it was an old Woody Hyman boat.
Okay.
But that was kind of how their plans came off.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be able to track down. I've got Roger Fletcher who wrote a book on like building drift boats and dories. We're going to talk about some of the history, so I'm sure he'll be able to tie into it. But basically, yeah, I mean, it was you guys. You had just a few companies back in 73, 74 in that area, that era, and then. How's it been over the years? I mean, just looking now because you took over. I'm not sure if your dad still comes in the shop or whatever, but how has it been? Has it been, there must be some challenges like any business over the years, but has it been a pretty awesome making drift boats for your life?
Well, it's been a great way to grow up for sure. We. I don't know. I love the business. It's I meet great people, and getting to talk fishing and boats all day is a pretty great way to have a business for sure.
Yeah, no, it is. I love coming down. It's been a while since I've been down to your shop, but it's awesome. You head down towards Eugene and take a turn out there, and it's just kind of a cool, right? You got your whole shop is right there just outside of Eugene. What's the town it's in?
We are we're in Eugene.
Oh, you are in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in Eugene. So, well, so as far as the boat, like Koffler, you guys have a bunch of different models. I mean, I always think of the drift boat because I have the 17-foot drift boat, 17 by 54, which is a really great boat. And I wanted to talk about that because I had a few questions for you. It's awesome. It does well with a lot of weight. But what was the first boat, and maybe talk about the first boat your dad produced, the size and all that stuff back in the day, the aluminum, and then what you guys have now for models and different boats.
Well, our boats all started 16 by 48. sheet sizes, kind of.
Oh, right.
That's the beautiful thing with aluminum is we can go bigger and all have one piece bottoms and stuff. Where in the wood it was a pain to splice. So a 48-inch bottom is kind of where it started, and that was
Yep.
well, yeah, it was probably in the 80s when we started doing 54-inch bottoms.
Oh, okay.
So.
And that was just mainly just to get more room. Was that the basic reason? Was it just having more?
Yeah, stability, being able to carry more people, more weight, and float shallower. Yeah, everything's getting bigger now. 54-inch, 60-inch is in the 17 and 18 footers. So just more people trying to get more people in the boat fishing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was, again, back on the Grand Canyon stuff. Martin's Boat is the name of this 20-minute documentary that's really cool on that whole history. But, essentially he went back, and I think this was in the 60s, 50s, 60s. He connected to some of the Oregon wood boat makers, and they said, hey, can you make me a boat for the Grand Canyon? Have you seen those boats they run, those drift boats in the Grand Canyon?
They're all decked over and stuff. We've made a couple. Actually, I've made a couple of 16-footers for different people, and I've got a couple of 20-footers that are over in Hell's Canyon right now.
Oh, wow.
They're all decked over, so just
nice.
for that same reason.
Oh, cool. So you have made, you have. So that boat, and that's what blew me away watching that documentary, because I've never dumped a drift boat, that knock on wood sort of thing. But I've been close. And I can't say that I've been close in your boat, because that 17-foot has been amazing. In fact, my story. Here's my story that I've told this a couple times. But I had an old Fishright. That was like my first boat, the really boat I used a lot, and it was old. I can't remember what year it was, but I was going down the Deschutes and I swamped it, and I almost sunk it. And it was just one of those things where the design, I probably had too much weight. The design was kind of off, and my dad was in the boat, and he was old. This was like, and it was like a wake up. And I think when I got off, I called you up and I said, or however it worked, I can't remember, but I got a boat. I got a drift boat, a Koffler, and that 17-footer has been amazing because it does well with weight. Can you talk just briefly on that? Talk about that 17 by 54. Why you guys made an extra foot long, and how is that the idea? Is the weight?
Well, we sold a lot of boats to the guides, and that's what they were all, like when you're on the Deschutes or on the Rogue and you're trying to do some overnight and you're trying to carry some weight, those 48-inch bottom boats were phenomenal for day trips with, light loads. But when you start getting, when you start trying to carry gear, that's exactly what happens. Is when they start getting overloaded, you start not being able to make that cut. And my dad's always said, those, when you're doing big whitewater, there's those that have had trouble and those that will. And it's just, a matter of too much weight, wrong conditions used. And so that is, but that's how we got to be doing bigger boats is just for that, carrying more weight. But that 17 is really, it's a nimble boat, for being big. It kind of crosses over and rows nicely when you do have a light load, but then it does allow you to kind of load it down if you need to.
Yeah, you're right. And like we were talking about back to the Grand Canyon boats, I didn't realize you had made some of those boats. So that was one of the interesting things back to the flipping, is that in some of that video, man, they show boats flipping. Of course, these are huge rapids. And the crazy thing about it is they roll right over. They don't sink. Is that, your boats, have you heard how they do? Are they meant to just flip back over?
Not a traditional normal boat, but it's all the compartments and stuff inside that create enough buoyancy to allow it to.
Yeah. So if your boat, you probably haven't, I'm not sure if you heard any stories about your boats going upside down, but the ones you made for the Hell's Canyon and stuff like that, I'd imagine that would be the idea, that you can kind of bang them down. And is that the idea?
That's the goal, but I don't know of any of my compartmented boats, if they've been over, what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that's the interesting thing. You always see the aluminum. I mean, when you see these boats go down, because I've seen them, you've probably seen them too, right? You're floating over a rapid and there's a boat upside down in the river. Um, just aluminum in general, does it, once it loses that structural integrity, does it just tin can up? Is that, what do you guys expect, when you bang rocks? I mean, because they are pretty durable. I've hit plenty of rocks in mine. Um, how would you compare that to, say, a wood boat?
Well, wood boat, you know, definitely quieter when you're hitting, but an aluminum boat is just so much tougher. I mean, yes, you can get a monster dent in the side when you do hit a big rock, um, but we're able to pound those out, and any broken welds we can weld back up, and then and shape it back to normal. Where once you damage a wood boat, it's tougher to repair like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just thinking, you mentioned this is again for a testament to you guys, and probably your service is something that you probably pride yourself on. But I can't remember now. I'm drawing my history is a little blank, but I did have an older Koffler. I did have a 16 by 48, and it was one. This is one I got from a guy. I mean, this is again tells you, imagine where your boats are at. This was stuck on the coast of Oregon. I don't know how many years, but there was blackberries growing through it, and the trailer, it had been sitting out so long that when I pulled it out, the trailer literally, because it was a metal trailer, just rusted and fell apart. But the boat was okay. But the funny thing is the reason it sat there, because the guy was in one of those coastal rivers. He almost dumped it, and I think maybe he did dump it, but it tweaked the whole boat, and I'm not sure what the back of the boat's called, but the whole thing was bent. And I pulled it out and I drove that thing over to you guys. I don't know if you remember this, but this is a while ago. And I said, Joe, could you fix this thing up and paint it up? And you fix that thing up, man. I think, and you put a coat. Remember the orange and black, right? You put that coat on there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That boat, man, you made the thing look brand new. And that boat was pretty much, whoever had that was like, this thing's garbage. I mean, so talk about that. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you take a boat like that and kind of give it a new life?
We do a ton of refurbish and repair. So as far as paint work, that's all easy. I mean, twisting if there's any structural damage, we have the ability to pound out dents and twist
Hmm.
the structure back to where it needs to be. So, but yeah, that's something that we do a ton of. I mean,
Yeah.
I see boats all the time that my dad built back in the '70s that are still on the water, and we
Nice.
just refurbished one here a couple weeks ago. The guy brought in, and it it was pretty early. I mean, it's probably a 75,
Hmm.
76, and you would never believe it. And when we got done, we pounded out a couple of dents and re-zolits on the inside, and it was remarkable. It
Wow.
looked good.
Wow. That's yeah, 75. I mean, that's the crazy thing. We're talking 50 years almost now. You guys have been almost in business, right? The 50-year. Um, so, gosh, on the old boat, when you think of that, the 14 by 60, I'm not sure. Do you still make the 16 by 48?
We do actually make quite a few 16 by 48s.
Yeah.
There's, over the years, guys keep thinking they want bigger, 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 and so 54 is probably the most common by far. But there's a lot more people that are starting to, they're fishing with one other guy, and they're starting to revert back down into that 48-inch bottom boat, because it is like a sports car, and
Yeah.
when you're not having to pull the oars on a big boat, um, it's or if you get into bigger water where you're like on the upper Mackenzie where the water's really falling and you're really having to pick your way, a smaller boat is more nimble. So
Mm, gotcha. Yeah, it is, and I can testament to that, because that old boat you fixed for me was a 16 by 48, and it was awesome on the coast, just like me and a couple of guys, for the day, like you said. So, you mentioned the Mackenzie. This is an interesting thing, because I think drift boats pretty much were created, I mean, in Oregon, right? That's the history. The Rogue style, the Mackenzie style. They had these two different boats. Do you know, is your boat either a Rogue style or a Mackenzie? Do you know that history at all? Like the difference?
I believe this one here is the Mackenzie style. Yes.
Yeah, the Mackenzie style. Okay, that's Because I was trying to, and I don't actually, I should have it, because you're my second guest that I've talked to. I've got 12 episodes coming up with different people in the drift boat industry. So I'll have a good answer for some of that there. But I think the difference is that like, the Rogue style, I think, was made, maybe, I don't know if the rocker was a little different, but something was about, I don't know if it was for more of the whitewater, but the Mackenzie had whitewater too. So I'm not too sure. I'll have to kind of add some of that. But yeah, so you think the Mackenzie style is probably what you're still to
Well,
this
a lot
day.
of the very, very first ones had a blunt nose.
Oh, they did.
I've seen some pictures in old videos of the Helfrich. I think it was Prince.
Yep.
That he was actually rowing a blunt nose drift boat style boat down the Mackenzie. And it was black and white. I can't even remember where I saw that clip, but
yeah,
pretty cool.
Oh, was it a video?
I believe it was. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. I had a picture. I just connected to Ken. I guess Kenny Helfrich. I guess they're still going strong out there with some of their stuff. So yeah, he's going to come on as well and talk about that history.
Well, it might have been on Kelsey's, some of Kelsey's in either Instagram or something like that, because she's really good about posting stuff like that, and that might have been where I saw it.
Oh, okay. Is that Kelsey Helfrich?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and the Helfrich, they're obviously, yeah, they were there probably when your dad was starting. I'm sure he probably saw some of those. But again, I think that history is awesome, going back to your dad and the aluminum gutter business, because that's a pretty amazing story. That, I mean, have you seen over the years companies, other companies, I don't know how much you see in the industry, your little niche, but come and go? Like you see a new company pop out. I actually remember, there's been a few even down in like Southern Oregon, right? But you guys have stuck around, right? You got Willis, you got who are the other? Lumenweld's a good one, right? They're not around anymore, are they?
Yeah, Lumenweld's, they're not doing any drift boats. They're big into their power boats, but they've really cut back on their drift boat stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like you say, there's a lot of small companies, that branch off of others. It's a tough market to stay in. There's, you got to do it for the love of the sport, because, there's it's so competitive in the drift boat market as far as, boat wise. It's really tough to make a buck in it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you guys and that's the cool thing about you guys, you've expanded out, right? I mean, you not only have the drift boats, but you have some sleds and all sorts of, I remember a few years back you were talking about you were making some other stuff, right? Like camping stuff. Talk about your models now, other than the drift boats. What else do you guys make?
Yeah, we build everything from like a little 8-foot pram, 8, 10, and 12-foot pram. We've got our Rocky Mountain trout boat, which is a larger pram. It's 13, 14, and 16 footers. They're square ended, rockered like a drift boat, but wide at both ends, which gives you a ton of stability. Most smaller boats, when they put a point on the end of them, you lose so much stability in the lack of the width of the boat at the ends. And these here have been doing extremely well, because it allows somebody to have one boat, use it for still water lake fishing, put a small motor on it, and then also, because it's rockered bottom, it actually rows very well in the rivers too. So that's been a really good model for us as of the last 10 years. And then, of course, we do a ton of power boats, normal jet sleds, some deeper V-bottom boats for, some more aggressive water. And then we do a lot more specialized stuff like landing crafts and sea dories, which are things that we've done here in the last 10 years. So those are pretty cool.
Gotcha. And the sea dories are those, you're talking the huge, like ocean-going big boats.
Yeah, sea dories are more specialized out of, like, say, Pacific City, where they actually
launching off the beach.
Beach land them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. That was been traditional. Has been a wood and a glass boat kind of thing, and aluminum boats we had a really hard time breaking in to that market, and we ended up finding a coating that really allows our boat to slide up the beach nicely. And so I don't know, we've probably got 12 or 15 of them up there at Pacific City now, which again, it's a pretty small market, but they've been holding up very well, and it's been a fun market. It's a great group of guys up there, you know, pretty tight knit. And anyway, it's been fun to work with them.
Yeah, and you're talking about like the coating. You have a special coat, like similar to what you might put on, I don't know, with Glove It or whatever you put on the bottom of a drift boat to protect it.
Yeah. It's Wetlander is a new product on the market for the drift boats, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's so slick that I mean, you can't pull the boat up on the beach and expect it to stay there. You know, I mean, you've got to either anchor the boat up or because you know, it just keeps wanting to slide right back into the water.
Amazing. So, I wanted to talk about that on the boat, the bottom, because, you know, treating it in the past, that's been a struggle for me, is like the Glove It seemed to be this huge process of getting that protected. But talk about that. So if you had a boat right now and you were thinking about, well, first, when do you need to redo the bottom? How do you know when to put a new coat on there?
I'm in my mind, a bottom coating, there's no real time zone when it needs to be redone, but as the boat starts sticking on rocks, it needs to be done fairly quickly, because if you're stopping on stuff, that's when you're going to start denting the bottom of the boat. And so you may look under there and there may not be very much product on there, but if you're not stopping on rocks, I'm the kind that just says, just go run it until you are stopping. If you start hanging up, we need to get it done fairly quickly so you don't go denting the bottom.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip. Yeah, and that's the problem. I think that you don't realize it. So yeah, if you use a lot, you probably want to be doing that definitely probably annually at least.
Glove It, you know, the problem with Glove It is as you start getting fractures or you know, flaking product, it starts walking and starts, you know, taking off big chunks as you're hitting. Well, in order to redo it, you've got to sand all of that Glove It off, get it down to bare aluminum to start over. Otherwise, if you try to coat over the top of it, you know, the old stuff underneath is so flaky that it's taking your new stuff with it. So what we've been doing is just strip it down to bare aluminum, switch over to this Wetlander, which is now a product that will wear off over time. It's just not going to fail like Glove It does, where it actually like starts flaking back. You'll start getting scratches down to bare aluminum, but it's not going to actually start flaking and peeling. And then as we start having to redo it down the road, we'll start building up our thickness, which will then increase your longevity. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to bring the old boat into you and get that taken care of, because I think probably the boat is sticking a little bit, and there's a few dents. There's actually a couple of decent dents in it. I wonder that something, maybe I could just bring it down. You could take a look and see what you think as far as if we'd love to. If it's worth it to pound things out. So, okay. So Wetlander, that's a good one. And that, I imagine, something that if somebody wanted to do it themselves, they could buy that and just, like you said, sand off whatever the old stuff and put a coat of the new stuff on.
It is a product you can do yourself. It rolls on. We spray it on just so that we can get extra thick millage, but it is a product you can roll on. It makes a hell of a mess trying to get rid of the old Glove It. So, you know, a lot of guys end up bringing it in because it's kind of a project, but it is a product or something that you could do yourself.
Gotcha.
Yes.
What do you guys, just for my own, or I guess probably anybody listening, what do you guys charge if you take that in and say you got an old boat? Does it depend on how bad your boat is, but just to get a new coat on there?
Yeah, it depends on how much product's on there, because you've got about $280 in material.
Yep.
and then the prep time. So if you've got a ton of gloved on there that we've got to remove, it would cost more than
Gotcha.
On a new boat we charge $575.
Okay.
And so on a used boat that we've got to remove the
Could
gloved,
be 1,000
you're
or
more
something.
like you're more like $650 to $700.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, that's definitely just time is money, right? I mean, that's the thing. If I'm going to be out there spending frickin' days and days getting the glove on, which it is a pain in the ass. I mean, that I've tried it. I've had that boat upside down, and that's part of the reason why I think people tend to not do it that often. They're just like, man, it's such a pain in the
Totally.
butt. They just don't do it. So that now, but what happens when your boat gets all dented up, right? So you got this boat. Maybe it's a sweet looking boat, but the bottom's dented. What do you do with that? What do you recommend if you see a boat that maybe has too many dents on the bottom? Is that something you guys can fix?
Well, the dents in the bottom are some of those, we may or may not take out. The dents in the chine, they look horrible, but there's the structure of the hull; those come out pretty easily.
What is the chine?
The chine is what joins the bottom and the side. It's the
Oh yeah.
piece of angle or substantial, support on that where the side and the bottom meet. And a lot of times that'll dent in, when you hit a rock hard.
Yep.
And we can get that out of there, but trying to get it out, a lot of times that weld will break. So we'll have to, weld it back up and then water check it. But that's very common.
Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so this is awesome. Yeah, no, I think the glove that was actually a question Shannon, a buddy of mine, had. I think, again, that's probably a struggle for a lot of people, is how do you deal with the bottom of the boat? But I think we answered that today, so that's good. I want to check, we're going to slowly take it out of here in a little bit, Joe, but I want to check, you're going back to your dad, because I remember, obviously he started the company. Is he still around there? And how has that transition been like for you over the years, kind of taking over the lead with the company?
Yeah, he's in less and less. He still comes in, and it's kind of like the Orange County chopper thing. He comes in and makes sure everybody's working and stirs shit up, and then heads out of there. But no, he's when you've put your heart and soul into this thing for as long as he has, it's you made so many great friends over the years. It's something that I don't.
Proud of.
It's tough to leave, and so he's able to come in and kind of see that everything's going good, and so he's still coming in, but no,
cool.
It's less and less for sure. He's enjoying his time off and getting to do more fishing, which over the years is he's been putting in big long hours trying to do what he does. So
no, I hear you. I think that's awesome to hear that. And then with you, I think you do have a couple of kids too. I mean, what do you think of that when you look at your kids? Do you have a couple boys, or what do you have going there?
I've got a daughter that is 28. I've got a son that is 23 who's actually in the business.
Oh, okay.
That's Trenton. Kylie's my oldest, and then Trenton is 23. He's actually building boats for us now and doing well. And then I've got a 16-year-old son, Caden, that is he works there in the summer times, and during COVID, he's been putting in some time at the shop as well.
Yeah,
so.
This COVID thing is crazy, but okay, so so you got a couple, and when you look at that, so you got your older boy, he's in it, he's. I mean, it looks like maybe he down the line. I'm not sure, how long you're going to be, when that switch comes. But does that feel pretty good for you, knowing that you might have some more family taking over as you kind of head out?
Absolutely, definitely. It's nice to know that we still have somebody that is going to be carrying on the torch, and looking back, it's just like I said, we've had such great people and customers that we've dealt with over the years, and I don't know, it'll be nice to have Trenton there taking care of them.
Yeah.
When I'm ready to go fishing more.
That is cool. For the boats, we talked a little bit about the different boats you guys have going. And I guess you mentioned what is your, if you had to say your best selling boat, what is that boat right now?
Well, our power boats obviously are our biggest numbers of
Mm-hmm.
boats, because I've got, we build our power boats, 16 to 24 feet. Our 22 feet are probably our most common. Is 16 to 22 feet are our most common power boats. But I also, my trout boat is doing pretty good. You got lots of guys that are
Oh, yeah.
looking to consolidate from two boats to one, and so that's been a high mover. But the sheer numbers, 16 to 22 feet power boats, those are the most common we're building right now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and it's interesting because with the power boats, I don't have a power boat, but I have an old motor on the Koffler, and guess drift boats in general, they don't do that well, right, with a motor on the back. But I have heard there are some boats, maybe it was a wooden boat, drift boat, that you can get up on step. Have you ever heard that? And do you have any boats that will actually plane? You get up on plane?
Well, a rockered boat won't plane.
Okay, it won't at all. There's
So,
no way.
yeah, no, I mean, if you'd have to have a transition into a planing surface in the back, and because like my trout boat is as close to getting to plane as you're going to get, because it's wide back end, but because it's rockered up, that boat, I mean, it will try, I mean, but
Yeah.
because of that rocker bottom, it just doesn't.
Okay. What would be the boat? I mean, if you wanted a boat that would plane and that also would do okay in whitewater, is there anything like that? Do you guys have anything like that?
Well, my jet drifter is a planing hull, but is small and light enough to row well.
Oh.
Now, because it will plane, when you get into your whitewater, you'll run the motor rather than row it, because anytime you take away the rocker, you take away its whitewater ability without power.
Yeah. That's right. The rocker. Why is the rocker? And again, there's different boats. Like again, the Grand Canyon. Those boats, I think they made really long. There's a long flat part, but why is the rocker so important on a whitewater or drift boat?
Because as you're dropping down into the whitewater, the round part of the boat that's upstream allows the bow to come up.
Oh, right.
And when you've got a long, flat, straight surface, the
down.
back of the boat is still coming off the back of that wave, and it pushes the nose down into the front side of the wave.
Ooh.
Where if it's rockered front to back, it allows that boat to rock up and that bow to come up and keep the water from coming in the boat.
Yeah, that's it. Gosh, basically without the rocker, you basically you nosedive into waves and stuff like that. You're not.
Yep, and that's exactly why your power boats have to be up and running, because that long flat planing surface just drives that nose right into the wave.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting because when you see rapids occasionally, like on the Deschutes especially, I've seen a lot of boats coming through, Colorado, and there's some other decent sized rapids, and they'll motor up fast, but then they have to cut it sometimes they'll even float through the rapids. I guess that's because they know what's going on. But when they're coming up through a big rapid, they're on full plane going through that pretty much.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Have you run, what's your story? Are you more, I know you've got sleds and boats. I mean, have you been in any whitewater that you kind of, has kind of puckered you up a little bit?
I've ridden up the chutes and seen wash out and those, and yeah, it's an eye opener what these guys are doing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys are all over, and your boats. Do you know where your boats are? I mean, I'm assuming there's probably around the country, but do you sell more boats in Oregon, or how's all that look? Or are you marketing, trying to cover all over the country?
Yeah, we're all over.
Yeah.
course, West Coast is our, because it's local, where 90% of our boats go. But I just sold a big landing craft, 30 footer, 27, 30 foot, to New Hampshire. And so, yeah, we're all over the place. I got another landing craft down in Puerto Rico. So, yeah, drift boats and stuff on the East Coast. So, I mean, it's freight is a problem trying to get boats, delivered. But as far as being able to sell them, that's, when being in business since the 70s, guys start to hear, some good word of mouth, and it makes it easy to sell boats.
That's right. Yeah, you guys have, it's obviously your logo's on the side of the boat. So are you guys still, I think you changed your logo a few years back, right, with the big K. Is that still?
We did, yes.
Is that still, how's that logo? How are people liking that?
Well, people are loving it, but you still get the old schools guys that are looking for the old logo.
Cursive. Do you if somebody comes in, if somebody comes in, because I have the old cursive, I can't remember what year the boat was made, but it does look, classic, right? Will you put that on, or is it pretty much you have the big K? That's what you guys do.
Oh no, we offer the cursive, and of course we got the real old school ones, the fish logo, and yeah, it's funny. We were going into our first show up in Puyallup, Washington, and with our new logo, and of course my dad he liked the script logo that he had been pushing for years, and so he's kind of sitting back, and all the boats have the new logos on them, and he's kind of resistant to the change, and we got into the show, and like the first 12 or 15 people into the booth are like, "Oh man, we love the new logo." And
nice.
So after being resistant, halfway through the day, we hear him talking to customers in the back, and he's like, "Yeah, I kind of told Joe we were looking for a new change, and maybe we should be changing this logo up a little bit," but which was more for our benefit. He was jerking our chain.
Exactly. So. Yeah, no, it's awesome because it's, you're running the show, right? I mean, your dad, you make the decisions essentially. And I mean, I think your son, if he comes out to that point, you're going to get to a point where he might, maybe when he takes over, he might make it, you know what I mean? He's going to make that decision. You're like, well, I don't know if it's a good one, but you got to trust him, right? It's trust.
Yeah, it would be tough, after putting this much effort into your business and then seeing something you're not quite sure of how it's going to go. But
yeah. No, well,
gotta trust them.
At the end of the day, I guess it is just a logo, right? You could always, and you probably will get a new logo, change it up down the line as well, right? You've had 3 now. This is your 3rd one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap this up, Joe. I just before we get out of here, I wanted to touch on, just as far as what you have going in the next, year or so. Do you guys, do you come out with new models? Or are you always trying to design new things? It sounds like that Pram is a pretty cool boat, but how do you look at that when you look at the future? How do you stay ahead of the curve or whatever?
Well, we've been kind of hanging in with our standard models, tweaking those, slowly over the years. And I see a lot of the same, what we've have are proven and work really well. So, we do some slight changing on the inside, but, as far as like full hull designs, as of right now, we don't have anything in the works. Okay. Everything's
there,
just based off of what everything's proven, and we're kind of rolling with that.
Yeah, it's good. No, I think what you have is great. And like I said, the 17, my boat I love. It's I can't imagine. And here's a question. So do you on that boat? So I'm loading it up. Say I've got a 5-day trip. It's just I've got all my piles of stuff. Is it good to have a little bit more weight up front, like up on the coaming deck, put a couple of waterproof bags. If you're going to be, when you look at the bottom of the boat versus the the top of the boat, or the front versus the back, how much of that boat should be sticking out? Is it okay to have more sticking out in the back or front, or does that matter? You know what I'm saying?
You'll want a slight downward angle of the nose,
Okay.
but you'll know this by rowing it. A slight weight change forward or back will make the boat row better or worse. And so when I'm teaching a new oarsman, we're definitely showing them how to do that. And one of these times on accident, the boat will just be rowing awesome. And well, that's why, is because the weight transfer from front to back, you've got it just dialed just right. And so, as far as how much weight where, I just kind of get, ideally aim for a slight nose down angle and then start tweaking weight in the boat after you're rolling.
Yeah, just exactly. Yeah, just you could tweak a little bit, the seats adjust. Yeah, you can move the front seat up or back, and same with the rower seat. Okay, so that's good. And then, so tips on rowing. Do you do classes, or what? If somebody buys a boat, you'll take them out on the river?
Absolutely. If a guy buys a boat, we kind of take him, if he needs it, we would love to take him to the water, show him how to row. And it's one of those things that we sure don't want somebody getting hurt. So if they're not confident, then we'll make sure they have the tools to get out there and use it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Perfect. Good. Well, I guess, there was a few things we didn't dig into as far as some of the nerdy specs on a drift boat, but I think I'll leave that for maybe another one. And, the name you like to shine, some of that stuff and how the boat is built. I think I'll cover that maybe when I talk to some of the other folks that are coming up. But yeah, Joe, I guess if they want to find you, it's just KofflerBoats.com if they want to see what you guys have going.
Yes, that's it.
All right. Awesome, Joe. Hey, thanks for taking the time today. This has been a lot of fun. I love, again, I love going back to the story of hearing how your dad started with the gutter business. And to this day, I mean, right, you guys still, you have that history. And do you guys still, I guess, one note, I remember you guys were, you were talking about building some other camping gear. And I think you guys still do like screw traps and stuff. If somebody has a custom idea for something, will you look at that design and potentially build it for them?
Absolutely.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So you guys can pretty much build. I mean, what's the weirdest thing you've ever built out of aluminum?
Well, we've
maybe that's
I told my wife when she first started working for us, we should change our name to Koffler Boats and Stupid Shit, because we have all kinds of crazy things that come through.
That's awesome.
We've worked on hot dog stands.
Nice.
Yeah, screw traps. We do a ton of screw traps. That's been a great business for us since the 80s. Just tons of custom welding. So, I mean, there's been so many. That's awesome. So many random things, but it all, we welcome all of it. It fills the gaps, and it's fun projects.
Cool. That's cool. All right, Joe. Well, again, KofflerBoats.com. We'll put a link there, and we'll keep in touch with you. And this has been awesome. Looking forward to keep in touch. And on that bottom of the boat, maybe you'll be seeing me on getting that thing taken care of. Maybe I'll send you a photo of what my boat looks like, and then you can just tell. Could you tell, like, if I sent you a photo, would you be able to tell how bad, at the right angle, how bad, how much it needs a new coat?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
If I had a couple different pictures, from a distance, I can zoom in on it and check on it. But I can tell if it needs it or not.
Is there any, you don't have a limit, because there's going to be like thousands of people that are going to listen to this here. So if I give them a shout out, like say, hey, go ahead and send a photo to Joe, are you good with that?
Oh, absolutely. Just send it to joe@kofflerboats.com.
Okay. All right, Joe. Hey, have a good day, and great to keep in touch with you.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Appreciate it.
So there you go. If you want to find all the show notes, all links we covered, just go to wetflyswing.com/180. As we approach episode number 200, in the not too distant future. I'd love to hear if you have an idea for the celebration episode. You can send me a message, direct email, or DM me on social. It'd be great to hear if you have any ideas. Definitely, this is a big milestone. Essentially, this is 4 years of podcasting weekly that we're celebrating. So would love to hear if you have any ideas. Thanks again for stopping by today to check out the show. Wanted to thank you and hope to see you maybe on the river or online.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or the app of your choice. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.